Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the screening of Proscenium. I am quite pleased to be joined by filmmaker Allison Harrison to speak a bit more about what I consider to be a very multi-layered film. Allison, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for the invitation.
Now, one of I mean, there are so many questions that I have about the movie, but the first question that I think it's kind of needing like a little bit more parsing out is the title, Proscenium. Now, for those of us who are not, I guess, engaged in the theater, could you tell us a little bit about why you chose that title for this movie?
The journey of the title of this film has been long. When I first toyed with the idea of doing a movie in a theater, I was like, I want it to be one word, the title to be one word, but to imply so many things. It can imply so many things. So I would sit in the theater, or if I'm working in the theater shooting something, I would think about what elements could really stand out. And I toyed with a bunch of titles, and then I started doing a little bit of research on theater, a little bit more on the different aspects of theater. And I came upon the proscenium. So I was like, this is it. This is it. And which is interesting because I ran it by like my big sister, and she wasn't so great with it. She was like, but people won't get it, and it's not very straightforward. And I thought that was a part of the appeal, that it's not very straightforward. So that is the journey leading up to the title, and I'm really happy I stuck with it.
I am too, because it gives quite a lot in terms of interpretation, leading you into the film, and then once you've actually watched it, to reconsider, because I mean the physical aspect of proscenium and the metaphorical aspect of proscenium. So it's a frame, the stage as the frame, and then also the reality. It's almost the fact that you are watching something unfold within that space. And, because, I'm thinking about, the way that we experience media, the way we experience television, film. There's always that aspect of, that fourth wall that we are behind, and and it's a different reality that we're experiencing in the films. I really think that was a perfect choice. Not just because of my literature background also, but I think it was a perfect choice for a film. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the cinematography. Because a lot of the shots of the Carib, I felt were...
The word.
Oh, the word, because you said that she should take her to the Carib. But a lot of the shots of the Ward Theatre were quite... I mean, my interpretation of them, they were loving. There was some lovingly structured, composed pans across particular aspects of the theater. The windows, some of the areas of decay, and so on. I almost feel like this film is a bit of an elegy for the Ward. Am I overreading?
Yes.
Because it's
No.
Okay.
No, I have a very, like, my respect for the Ward Theatre is, and I still have a kind of a reverence for it. And we'll get to the collaborative process, but the collaborators, Ray and Maya, and we all have a respect for theater. So it was easy to just kind of play all the characters within the theater. I understood, and Ryan understood, like the framing and how we wanted it to look. We wanted to show that it was in the state back then, the state it was in. We wanted to show that, and to even under all of the decay, it's still a beautiful, majestic place. So that was the showing of the cobwebs and all of that, and the building and elements of the building, the sculptures inside was very key to creating the character within the film of the Ward Theatre.
I'm going to double back on my next question because in a few minutes, but you mentioned Ryan McLean and Maya Wilkinson, who were your collaborators. And I have to use the word collaborators broadly because they were co-writing. They seemed to play so many roles.
Everybody played film. So many roles. Everybody played so many roles.
How did you find the collaborative process in the collaborative process and the collaborative process in creating this unified vision?
It wasn't hard to when I brought the idea to Ryan and Maya. It wasn't hard for them to really latch onto it. Well, the whole point of me approaching them is because they, through Quilt, have an excellent understanding of theater. So, and I like how they create and place their characters and their stories within a theater. So I thought, if I'm going to shoot something in a theater, it has to be Ryan and Maya. So, I have to work with them. In terms of the process, it's really just workshopping. It's reworking the script. When I brought the script to them, I brought a first draft, and we all sat down and Maya ripped it up, like shit, dash or that, and put this in, So they really brought a whole lot to this project that I can't even begin to express my gratitude for it.
I am happy to hear that. That the thing is, because it's leading to what I want to speak about next, because a lot of the current environment that we're in, because of the results of the pandemic, I feel like the creative sector has, in some cases, taken a bit of a hit.
Yes.
And I would like to know if, and it's always been my perspective that it is in the most difficult times that, collaborations are always the way forward, the way that we can, pool our resources to keep creating when things are challenging. Have you found that to be the case during the last year?
Absolutely. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that thinks this way. You have to work, you have to go out there and do something. Even with the restrictions, you have to figure out a way to get your voice out there, to get what you're doing out there. So it has slowed down a lot. There are no live in-house sit-down theater productions. So a lot of companies, including Quilt, have been kind of halted in terms of their work. But it's really, I think once everybody has the same vision, then the execution is secondary. It's just getting it done.
Okay. Now I'm going to go back to the question I wanted to ask, and it's really about the genre of film, because there aren't a lot of contemporary Jamaican horror and horror films. And I'm gonna just kind of be a little bit of a fanboy because I believe that true horror films are the ones that are psychological, are the ones that get into your head and make you think and make you create this kind of discomfort, this kind of dissonance with your reality. Why is this? What about that genre appeal to you as a Jamaican filmmaker?
It kind of always has been a thing. And I've always kind of enjoyed like the darker side of storytelling. Like even though the dopey story them are gonna freak you out, you still want to hear. You know, it has always been a curiosity for me, and horror isn't easy to do, and it was, boy. Now that I'm thinking about it like there aren't enough films coming out of Jamaica already. That's just the broad brush. There are even like I don't know how many horror films. Like I think you can maybe count on one or two hands the number of horror films. It's a genre it's very niche. But I've always been interested in just exploring the darker side. When I went to school, a part of my thesis project was I wrote a film about Hansel and Gretel. And everybody knows the Hansel and Gretel story, but the story was about the witch, how the witch became the witch in the Hansel and Gretel story. So I explored that. So from there, it has always kind of been, what's the darker side of this thing? Like, it's not always bright and sunny. You know, even with a love story, you can still have that darker side of things. And it even goes back to my experience in theater. Even before I was working in theater, when I used to go to the ward to attend shows, and the kinds of shows like River Muma, and I don't know if you or anybody in the audience remember these shows, but River Muma and the Golden Table, and it's the climax of the projects. You have 50-50, you have schoolers, you have all of these projects that were in the Ward Theatre that I remember. Bits and pieces, but one of the key things for me is that the circular, the light in the ceiling, always remember that. So that was also a very key element of the film.
And it is, as you mentioned. Well, I just want to add something here where you said that it's not easy to do a horror movie. It's not easy to do a horror movie well.
Yes,
I'm going to stress that one because I've seen a lot of horror movies. But not all of them. A lot of them tend to go for a particular denominator rather than actually getting into your mind, which is where I think the true horror resides, so to speak. But going back to the love story, because for me it's a dual love story. It's the love story between a boy and a girl, man and a woman, so to speak. But it's also it's a love story between an audience and a theater. For me, because especially that kind of that almost that the demand, so to speak. I remember when the deceased lady, I'm trying to find terms, the ghost, when they had that moment of flashback when the sailor was leaving, and it was almost this demand, like play again, do this again, and she's like, when you come back, and it's obvious he didn't come back, and I feel that it's, I mean, as I said, I my mind was just buzzing when I was watching it. I was thinking about, okay, the way the world has deteriorated has not necessarily been just the physicality of the building, because if a building is being used, if it's being if it's being occupied, if people are going there, these buildings are maintained. It's the shift from spaces like the ward to spaces like, I guess, avid spaces like the Carib, so to speak, where the loss of the audience, the loss of life, or the lifeblood, so to speak. And I felt that was kind of the two stories, the two moments when things broke apart. Again, another one of my moments of, am I overreading, or is that where we were going?
No. The love story is central. The ward is a central point of the love story. The love for the ward, the Jasmine's character, Melissa, she's an artist. She plays the violin, and she has always wanted to perform on a stage like the ward. So, however, because of the current state of the ward, she can't. So, just understanding the different layers. You have the respect for the ward theater. You have Greg, who is exploring love with Melissa, So, and then also just kind of what it means when an artist can go into a building and even on the stage in a place that is no longer in use can still appreciate that, can still appreciate that gesture. So yes.
And was that your experience working in the ward? That appreciation for something that you had known in a different, you had known it in a different guise, and now you're seeing it there, and you're able to work in and around it.
Yeah, I think everything just kind of came full circle with this film in terms of my exposure to and my experience in the ward and my experience in theater at Philip Sherlock as well. So and it definitely influenced a lot of the elements. I knew I wanted to make a film in the ward theater, and I needed people who understood theater and who tell great stories. So that was and has a respect for theater. And I'm sure, I don't know if the ward, I mean, they're working on it, but I don't know when there will be performances there again. But it's very important to remember what the ward is and what it represents in our culture.
What were the challenges that you had with filming in the ward? I mean, I'm sure, especially particularly as a space that is only seen by caretakers and people who are dealing with the renovation. What were the particular challenges that you can share with us?
Well, working in the ward, it's been locked up for a while. So, well, at that time it was, locked up. I don't think many people were passing through as much as maybe they are right now. But at that time it was locked up. So and there was barely any electricity, like there was barely any light in there. So you're greeted with the scent of old, and you're in there, and the surroundings downtown. We had to really coordinate with the managers of the space of the Ward Theatre, and the caretaker. The caretaker scene with Greg and the caretaker, that was just kind of on the fly. That was a thing that the director Rayan, he was just like, let's do this, and just grab. He's the actual caretaker of the Ward Theatre. The guy is his line, even his line was very on the fly, very improv. It's like, oh yeah, and so he's the one that came up with the whole Carib thing. So that was on the fly. So I mean, once people saw the activity happening down there, people were open to it happening. But we know that we were down there for hours, and it till 3 a.m, and downtown at 3 a.m.
Yes. Been downtown at 3 a.m. many times. So yes,
yeah,
I know.
So we have to consider the safety of everyone involved, and so it had its challenges in terms of working out the power, because we had to light, and you had to go all the way around there, so for a plug and all of that. So it was hard. It wasn't easy. It was hard. But if I had the opportunity to do this again, tomorrow we'll do it. we are going.
All right. You actually answered my follow-up question, because I was just thinking, would you not just film in a challenging environment like this again? Because I think you're used to challenging environments.
Yes, of course.
But would you engage with this genre again? Is it something that you think do you think there are more stories that need to be told in the Jamaican context that could fit into this genre?
Absolutely. Jamaica, like just interacting with people that you meet, and they're telling you their stories, and they're telling you, and not necessarily, it doesn't even have to be dopey stories. It could just be something dark, So I think that's a genre that I would love to explore more. I'm not limited to it, but definitely I would definitely do another film in this genre. Definitely.
Okay, I'm going to stop abusing my moderator's privilege now. We have a question from the viewers.
Yes.
How much research on the war did you have to do before filming? And what are some of the more bizarre, interesting, supernatural stories you've heard about the space, if any? I added that last part.
Okay. All right. So give me back the first question again.
Okay. How much research on the war did you have to do before filming?
Well, we had to go down there and check out the space, check out the accessibility of it. We had to we just had to be there, even if we're not filming, if we're supposed to meet, we try to, if Rayan and Maya and a couple of people would meet down there just to explore the space. We already understood what the word meant or what it means to our culture. So it was just a matter of pulling on each of our experiences in theater and just bring that out in the project. Research, we already knew that how long the ward was there. We already knew that it was in decay, and we already knew that the space is magnificent, whether decayed or not. It's a magnificent space. So I wasn't worried about the use of space, because these people, Ray and Maya, they know how to use space. So it wasn't like a lot of research. It's just knowing how to navigate the space.
Yeah.
And just choreographing for the space and the logistics of the space.
Okay. The second part of the question, were there any bizarre, interesting, or supernatural stories that you heard about the space?
I haven't heard anything supernatural, but I think we experienced supernatural while we were down there.
Oh.
I don't know about anybody else, but I think, like, being just imagine a ward theater.
Mm-hmm.
No lights, night.
Mm-hmm.
You're in there, and maybe like a one light is off, just to give you just so you can see what go on.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, you have to go your phone light and all of that. There's a presence there. Like, if you think about the history of the ward, like, and people that have passed through that place, there is a presence, or multiple presence.
So the feeling that you captured in the film was one that you really experienced as you were there.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. I mean, for me, and I would sit in there, and before I asked the collaborators to, I invited the collaborators to the project. I would go down there, and but that would be in the daytime when, the office is open. The caretaker, bless his heart, if you go there at night, if you talk to him and just explain to him what's going on, you're not going to be there long, then he would let you in at night, But it's a powerful space, and I just you just have to kind of go there to and be in the space to experience it.
So as an artist, you felt that the inspiration came from just your presence in the space.
Yeah, and who you're working with. Who you're working with is very important. You know,
Well,
if you go in the space and your energies are bouncing off each other, and yeah, we can do this, and let's do this, and let's try this. You know, so it's
there.
Yeah.
So sorry, there is that the questions are just coming in now, and there
Yes.
are a few comments that I'd like to share, because there are two comments that I've seen so far. One comment is, we're waiting for the next film, and another comment is this should have been a full length movie. It's like a whole movie. But going back to the questions, how did you choose what kind of ghost story you would tell? Honestly, I didn't see the body switch coming.
You did what?
No, well, I'm reading the question. How did you choose what kind of ghost story you would tell? And the comment after the question is, I didn't see the body switch coming.
Oh, well, that was the process, the writing process with Maya, and and she really brought a tremendous amount of wow to like the whole, just even how the story flowed and the elements of it, the flashback and all of that stuff, and like it kind of happened while we were workshopping it and rewriting it. It's like oh, and let's make this happen, and then we'd say oh no, and then let's make that happen. So it was just a series of workshops with the script, and it just kind of flowed and came out, and we were working against time as well, because it was supposed to be screened at the Jamaica Film Festival at the time. So we didn't have a lot of time to really get even deeper in the parallels in the film. So yeah.
I think, the next question, I think you've touched on it, a couple of times, but the question specifically, how did you conceptualize the plot storyline?
Well, the original story that I had, the characters were the same, but it was a little bit more gory with the way how I had it originally. As I said, it's just all in the workshopping. Everything comes out in the workshopping. I would advise anybody who is writing anything to workshop it with people that you trust. Everything just flows from there. Just ask for the help, and make sure you're working with people who know what they're, who have a healthy understanding of what you're trying to accomplish. So everything came out in the workshopping of the script with Maya and Rayan.
Okay. There's a comment that I'm going to share also, because I'm getting them quite furiously right now.
Okay.
And one of the comments is, my skin grew while watching the expression that we Guyanese use when the supernatural is in evidence. It's fascinating that she had the same experience while at the ward. And one thing that comment just kind of brought to me is our experience as Caribbean people of the supernatural.
Yes.
Because it's something that I find I don't want to say it's unique, but a lot of Western cultures don't necessarily experience or live with aspects of the supernatural the way we do. There's another film that I watched some time ago. I think it's by a Bayesian filmmaker, Handful of Dirt, where there was a moment in the film where these family members are separated. One is in Canada and one is in Barbados, and there is a gunshot near to the father in Barbados, and the son turns around in Toronto, like hearing it. And I remember sitting down with everybody and, audience, and everybody was watching this as a very matter-of-fact occurrence. It wasn't like, oh my God, that's so strange.
Oh, no.
Everybody like, yeah, yes.
We know about them something.
And then it continued like, okay, I continued watching the movie. And it wasn't until 3/4 way through the movie when I thought, other people might have seen that and thought that was odd or that was true, but nobody in the audience responded in any way as if it was anything that they thought was supernatural. But do you feel that it is something that is, I don't even know. I'm kind of thinking this question out as I ask it. Do you think it is something that we can nurture through these creative enterprises, that knowledge base, that kind of feeling, that kind of unique Caribbeanness or Caribbean relationship to the supernatural?
Oh yes, definitely. I'm sure if it's anybody listening or watching or anybody in your circle, maybe not you, but somebody has had an experience with the supernatural. And we're not, I think we're not afraid of it, so to speak, like that. It's like films like Proscenium just kind of highlight what people kind of already tell stories about. It's like, hey, I mean, this and this and this happened. Some of them sound a little bit outlandish, but is it really?
Exactly.
Is it really outlandish? So I do believe that films like Proscenium really help to highlight realities in the supernatural experience.
And I think there are very few Caribbean people who have not had some kind of experience that other people might consider supernatural. I think the reality of living in the Caribbean is that some of these experiences are so natural, not supernatural. They're so natural to us that we don't even consider them to be supernatural. I have another question. It's like I am currently writing a script, but I don't have a network of collaborators. Where can I find people?
Try your immediate surroundings. People with similar interests that are, even if maybe not directly, if you don't know them directly, maybe somebody knows somebody. But it's the collaborative process, especially for me, was a learning experience on all fronts. It really does help to deepen the impact of the work. To just, yes, you have all of these ideas in your head and you put it out on the paper, but run it by one or two people who actually work in the space and are doing what you want to do. I was just very lucky to just already have these people around me. So if you can, just try and find people that are doing what are you think you can trust them with your work.
So it's also, and I mean, that's a challenge right now. Because we're not able to go out and about as we normally do, but it's to find yourself within those creative spaces as well, not just seeking out. I mean, that's where you will find, I guess, some of the creatives if you're in those spaces. But then also, there's also Jafta. I think as an option. It can be,
absolutely, Jafta.
Joining Jafta, I think would definitely be a first step for the person who asked that question. If you're not if you're already part of Jafta, you would be asking that question, I guess. But seeking out Jafta, becoming a member, I think that is one of the one of the most phenomenal entities in terms of promoting film, finding funding for films,
Yes.
Workshops for script writers, all those different
Yes.
things are something that JAFTA does. So I think that that's also a wonderful option.
Yes.
Now,
Absolutely.
I don't want to keep you too long because we did have a particular commitment. So if there are no more questions from the audience, and I'm going to do the going once, going twice, going 3 times. If there are no more questions from the audience, as I think I share one of the earlier comments that we are really looking forward to your next project, your next filmic project, the next thing that we can see telling, stories that we haven't really anticipated, but that will move us, shift us, and create that kind of, skin prickling moment. Yes. So to speak. Yes. I think that I'm very glad that you've created this film, and I'm looking forward to what you do in the future as a filmmaker. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. And thank you for everybody who has tuned in to see the film. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
All right. So everyone, thank you for joining us for this last Sundays. I look forward to seeing you for our next edition, but also make sure to follow Factor 75, follow Allison Harrison to see what she's up to.
Yes.
Because I can guarantee that it's going to be very interesting.
Thank you.
All right, thank everyone, take care and stay safe and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you.